Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe. I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. They're live at SEC Media Days, by the way. I'm at the Texas High School Coaches Convention here in Houston as well. So we got a loaded show for you today. We got Marcus Myers joining us. Coach Gene Chizik will be joining later in the show. But tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We're also 47 days away from kickoff. So tell us who your favorite number 47 is. Now, guys, as I said, y'all are in Tampa for SEC Media Days and going to see a few coaches today speak later today.
Yeah, I can't wait. We got a number of different guys coming in, but 3 of the 4 will be coaches that Texas is going to be playing. Missouri coach Eli Drinkowitz starts us off. Then we get to see Brent Venables. We're going to have a little news from him. We hope to get an individual interview with John Mateer, if possible. And then we finish off with Josh Heupel. Texas goes to Knoxville for the first time in University of Texas history. They played 3 times before, but all in the Cotton Bowl, Jerry. So that's going to kickstart our SEC Media Day schedule. There'll be 4 coaches that go each day, 16 total. Steve Sarkisian ends the week on Thursday afternoon. Of course, we'll be here the entire week as well.
Yeah, great. This is kind of Sark spoke yesterday about, the start of the season. Bobby, you wrote something about that. When I walked in here this morning, this kind of got me going for the season. I feel like the longer I've been in the business, the longer it takes me to get just juiced up for a football season. This is it now every year for me, SEC Media Days. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what Josh Heupel has to say. I know he doesn't, not a boisterous voice necessarily, but, look, they have a quarterback decision to make. They also have Jim Knowles as a first-year DC. A lot of good defensive players coming back. And I'm really focused on Heupel today because that's the first SEC game for Texas. And that's going to be the first time Texas has played at Tennessee, as you said. That's a tough place to play. We've both been to games there. That's a tough place to play, underrated. So I'm interested to see what Josh Heupel has to say. And on as far as Brent Venables, will they run the football better this year? They have to help John Mateer more on the offensive side of football. Are they going to run the football better? They got those 3 sophomore offensive linemen. All will be future draft picks. Are they going to create run game to help John Mateer more this year, take a little pressure off of him?
Hey guys, let me see here. Well, as you said, Jerry, yesterday, Sark, of course, was here in Houston at the THSCA convention. And there you see him with Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire. By the way, Sark said everything is good between those two. But I actually wanted to play y'all a couple of clips, including his opening statement that he had yesterday, where he talks about getting ready for football.
Yeah, I always say this when I come to coach a school. This is kind of to me the kickoff to football season, which is exciting. You get here and you got 10,000 or so high school coaches, and you see the collective knowledge and support and love for our game, and you see all the colleges here and everybody here. But this to me is the kind of the kickoff to the season, even though we don't really start until August 5th, I think is our first practice. But I'll leave here Thursday. I go to SEC Media Days and get to talk about our team, and which it starts Monday. It's a 4-day event. And then we got about another week, and then we go to training camp. And so this is always kind of that time of the year when it just is the reminder that football's here, right? It's in the air. It's an exciting time. Football in the state of Texas, as we all know, is a religion, and there's a lot of coaches walking around the convention center right now this weekend, these next few days, that are all believing their team can be a champion, and that's a great feeling to have, and we're no different. And so it's an exciting time, and it's always fun to be here.
Around the corner,
Kickoff. Yep. Yeah, it's time to go. He said August 5th. I was told it was August 4th. They may have the media day on the 4th and then get going on the 5th. Jerry, as we look at this, and whether it's the THSCA, or the SEC Media Days. We've been doing this a long time. It does get your juices flowing.
Yes.
This is where, the end of talk season concludes.
No doubt. I mean, look, back in the Big 12 days, I had a hard time getting excited right about this time of year. I'll be real, it took me till the bubbles actually kicked off. But in the SEC, it is different. So much is on the line. The 12-team playoff, the schedules of all these teams, schedule for Texas, Ohio State. You look at the SEC, Ole Miss and Louisville right out of the gate, Oklahoma at Michigan, obviously Texas, Ohio State, and Clemson and LSU. Okay, there's big games are going to impact this playoff race right away in the SEC. Who's going to get in this CFP? But I just get so excited walking into the SEC media days. You see a lot of the faces that you've watched on TV for a long time. That really didn't happen in the Big 12. Now, you walk around here and there's history within a conference and even within TV. Tony Barnhart's sitting next to us doing interviews, right? I mean, it does get your juices flowing.
I will say this. We also saw Eli Drinkowitz this morning,
Yep.
As well as Caden Green, the big offensive tackle from Missouri. He looked like a winner.
Caden Green has a tremendous build. Not DJ Fluker. Not many people are there, but he is the next level guy. You know what interesting I noticed about him? He had a slight limp in the right leg.
Oh,
I was like
a
week from the start of training camp. That's not what you want to see.
There we go. Not with your running back also.
No.
Getting shot in the butt. So I combo that two together.
Cole Kubelik just walks by, so everybody from ESPN, we'll have him on Wednesday, I believe, for a little interview.
Hey, I want to say happy birthday to an Ohio State fan that's always in the chat, Lisa Sims. Happy belated birthday, but she joins us all the time here on Coffee and Football, and I'm counting down that Ohio State-Texas game. But hope you had a great one. Now, we're going to have Marcus Myers join us in just a moment. But, Bobby, first, can you tell us all about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group?
Yeah, we'd like to thank our sponsor, John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's proud Texas Exes Life member, and his wife and 6 siblings are all UT grads as well. So it was John's passion for UT that led him to brand his firm, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's firm is dedicated to designing wealth creation and management strategies, as well as risk mitigation and management strategies for UT alums, employees, and fans all across the country. For more than 30 years, John has helped his clients effectively create and manage their wealth, but just as importantly, protect their wealth from risks, including investment, insurance, and estate planning risks that can devastate even the most significant accumulated fortunes. John was so happy and proud for the UT women's athletic program to be recognized at last week's ESPY Awards for winning the Capital One Cup as the best college women's athletic program in the nation for the 4th time in the last 5 years. To celebrate this amazing level of consistent UT success, John's offering every OTF fan a free private financial consultation via Zoom, phone, or in person to show you how working with a certified financial planner can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy, and reduce or eliminate the risk to both your current and future financial successes all along the way. To schedule your own free private financial consultation, call the Longhorn Wealth Team, 972-707-4900, or schedule online, www.longhornwealth.net. John and the rest of the Longhorn Wealth Team send you all a huge Longhorn 100. Hook 'em.
All right, guys, time to bring in our weekly Monday guest, Marcus Myers. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, fellas. How y'all doing? Everybody's on location somewhere. For once, I'm actually at home.
Hey,
so
Marcus,
good to see everybody.
You were saying, Bobby?
Marcus, I got to ask you, you're kickstarting the campaign with us here this year. What are your thoughts about when the season really starts?
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to y'all talking about that, Bobby. I think it's a combination of the media days as well as when I start getting the text messages from people asking about tickets. And so I had a friend reach out asking me if I had any insight into some discounted tickets for Ohio State, to which I had to share with that friend. You're not going to find anything discounted that weekend within an hour of Austin, Texas. So I think, we have officially flipped the calendar to, getting towards the end of talking season and getting an opportunity to talk about some real football here pretty quick. So very excited that we're kind of on the precipice of the season.
Well, one
When
thing.
did your juices get blown for the season?
What'd you say, Jerry? You cut out on us.
When you were playing, when did your juices get flowing? That meant it's the start of the season.
Yeah, I think as you start to wind down your summer workouts, and then they kind of give you some insight on what's coming up. So we used to take a trip out to the lake, and then there would always be an opportunity to get out to Red McComb's Ranch. And that was typically we were given the dates for what that was going to be. And that's about when you knew, football was pretty close. And then we would start winding down our 7-on-7 season as well. So, it was around the same time frame. Obviously, things weren't covered in the same manner, and there wasn't the wall-to-wall coverage in the way that we're able to do it now. But there were still some markers and some signs that we were getting pretty close to football.
Well, yesterday, Marcus,
Steve. I'm sorry, Blake. You go ahead, bud.
I was going to say yesterday, Marcus, Sark, of course, met with the media, and he talked about Jermaine Bishop. Wanted to play you that clip and then get your thoughts.
Yeah, we're really excited about Jermaine. This guy loves football. Everything he does is he works at his craft, and he's excited about it. He brings great energy. He loves the game. He loves competing. He loves practice. He loves working at it. He's got natural leadership ability kind of in that freshman class already. You can feel his leadership, but he's very talented. And in spring, we played him exclusively at wide receiver, and he had a very good, spring for us. And, one thing that we talked about in recruiting with him was his ability to play DB as well. So for this summer, he's been working at DB. He's been learning our scheme. He's been learning the fundamentals, the techniques. And then when we go back to fall camp, he'll go back to wide receiver again, with the notion of knowing, hey, if emergency strikes, here's a guy who already knows our scheme, and he can go over there and play on defense. If he can continue to develop, he could be an emergency guy on the defensive side of the ball. But we'll focus with him on offense when we get back.
Hey, Marcus, did you ever play with a guy that worked on both sides of the ball before?
Man, I'm trying to think. If there was somebody that did that real time, we typically would have some guys do it a little bit, almost, I guess, to what Sark described, not so much over the summer, but sometimes you would have some guys do a little bit of both during camp. I know there was a period where Drew Kelson did a little bit of it just because, we wanted to make sure we had some depth flexibility, especially at running back. When there were some concerns around, well, not necessarily concerns, but you didn't fully know what a Jamal Charles was going to look like yet. Did you fully trust maybe Henry Melton to do it? And so they wanted a couple of extra bodies to do it. A lot of times it tends to be more of the depth guys that are doing it, and not always a true starter. But I think that's maybe the best example I can think of. I was around when Lamar Houston was kind of, making his transition and then, playing a little bit of both. But for the most part, most of the guys that I played with were kind of in one position already, and they did some of that position flex stuff in the spring. I think it's awesome that Jermaine Bishop is doing it. And, I've heard Sark tell this. I think I've heard Hank South mention it as well. It's not their first time with an athlete that they've, kind of used in this exact, manner when they've had Devonta Smith when they were at Alabama. So, it's cool when you have, some coaching staff experience and a guy that can do it. I know Jerry has talked, at length about how physical Jermaine Bishop Jr. is, even at his, size and weight in high school. And so I think it's awesome that he spent the summer, kind of honing that craft some, and he's someone that's talented enough that can do it if needed in a pinch. So I think it's great that, he's able to, have that ability as a freshman.
Marcus, on live stream last night, one of the things I mentioned, Rod and I were having a discussion about him. You know what it tells me, guys? He picked up the offensive scheme really quickly. If you're comfortable enough to let him take the majority of his reps this summer on defense, that means they feel like he picked up the offensive scheme very quickly. That puts him in line with Kelvin Banks, Cedric Baxter. But there's a difference there. He's worked at a different position all summer, guys. That means he picked up the offensive scheme as quickly as anybody they've had come in. That's the only way you allow that to happen.
I think that's true. I think there's an element of truth to that. I think also though, it's a you're trying to find the best spot for him, right? Like the guys that Sark compared him to were all first round draft picks.
Yep.
John Ross at Washington ended up being a receiver. Adoree Jackson at USC, and then also Devonta Smith. I feel like the question I have right now is, is he a better wide receiver or DB? It sounds like Sark's going to keep him at wide receiver and then go from there. I think while you're right about him catching up on the offense and understanding football, that's a lot of what Sark said. Is he said, look, he's a football player.
Yeah.
And I think that's right on target.
Yeah, and I think it also tells me too that the coaching staff is going, to every length possible, which you always want them to do, right? To make sure that they are kind of building in some break glass in case of emergency options. And so you want to do as much of that as you can, when you have opportunities to do so. I also think that, he's not going to be expected to be a full-time day one starter at wide receiver. So it gives you, a little bit of flexibility when you have guys like Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo, even a Khalil Lockett, Dalen McCutcheon. Like we could go on, right? These guys are already somewhat established. And as high as I am on Jermaine Bishop Jr., sometimes with guys like that are just football players, if they're not expected to immediately be the guy, right? We're not asking him to be Malachi Toney in that room, even though he may have, some spurts of impact in a similar manner. It's easier to maybe throw a little bit more on his plate, and it's certainly someone that has shown the coaching staff that they believe he can handle it. So it'll be really interesting to kind of watch, but I'm excited, man. I mean, like I said, football is almost here, and we got some real stuff to cover finally.
One of the other players that he was asked about.
Here's the reality of it.
Go ahead, Bobby. I think y'all are a little delayed. Go ahead.
Yeah, we are a little delayed. Our apologies here. I think if you look at a guy like Jermaine Bishop, and what I think of him and how his role will progress throughout the season, my thought process is that he's going to be a playmaker type. I don't want to say a change of pace, but if you look at guys like Emmett Mosley, like Cam Coleman, like Ryan Wingo, all three of those guys are bonus-sized receivers. They're actually bigger receivers than you would know. They don't have that jet.
Yeah.
And so how Sark decides to use him will be interesting to me, because it's going to be so different than everything else he throws out there, except for maybe the running backs. I mean, is he going to use him similar to the way that he uses Raleek Brown or Hollywood Smothers? Because those two guys have elite speed. I don't know. I think that he's going to be so different that we'll notice when he's on the field.
I think I could see him being used like Isaiah Bond was, but not that much, right?
Okay.
You want to get the ball in his hands and let him hit the accelerator, similar to Jaden Blue in the short passing game running back position. I think that's how you're going to see him early on, and once they build that with him, then they're going to hit people because look, with his ability to get down the field, race down the field, because he plays football so fast. But I could see them trying to get the ball in his hands quickly, early in his career, and let them get going instead of putting the pressure on him to run routes vertically down the field and then go win a 50-50 ball. I could see him just saying, let's get the ball in his hands and let him go to work early on his first few touches in college.
Now, going to say here, one of the other players that he was asked about yesterday was Lawrence Seymour, fellas. Here's what he had to say about Seymour.
Yeah, I think Lawrence has done really well. I've been impressed with him, and his body has changed already, which is big. Of our style of summer conditioning and what that looks like, and I think that he's really responded well to that, and the connectivity with the other offensive linemen and the fundamental work that we get to do. Time will tell. Lineman is difficult in the summertime. We're in underwear of what it's really going to look like. We'll find out a lot in training camp, especially kind of when we get into the second week when we're really in full pads and we're getting going. But so far, so good with him.
Bobby.
Stop.
Marcus, your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure, man.
I'll answer on the Seymour.
I
Go
couldn't
ahead,
hear
Jerry.
anything.
I'll say this on Seymour. He talked about losing weight, but look, he's been out of a college strength and conditioning program for months, right? And so you can go down and where he's finishing school online, and you can work out from home in Miami. Marcus, that's not the same as being a college strength and conditioning program. So his number one thing getting to Texas was to get in football shape again. And it sounds like from what Sark said, that is happened. And then that was his 1A. His 1B is then learning the scheme as quickly as possible. So he's prepared to go in August. It's going to be different when he's lined up against Ian Jaffard or Murad Watson or whatnot in practice. But his 1A was to get back in football shape because he didn't come in football shape. There's no way he was. He'd been out of a college strength and conditioning program too long. You're going to gain weight as a bigger body offensive line. And then 2 was to pick up on the scheme, Marcus. And it seems like 1A has been covered.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on top of that, he's still a young man that's adjusting to a new place. So that's what the summer's for. And I think I have full confidence in Torrey Becton and their strength and conditioning staff to get him where he needs to be. I've also, heard, some chatter around like the Cole Hudson stuff. And does that mean that, something isn't up to snuff with Seymour and their expectations? And I don't view it that way at all. I think if anything, it's just an opportunity for them to be able to find their best, 5 to 8, maybe even 9 guys that can, be in a really good rotation for that unit. And so I think, more than likely, Lawrence Seymour is perfectly on track for where they expected him to be, for where they hope him to be. And, he doesn't, still has another, full month and some change before, we line it up against Texas State. So certainly looking forward to get to see him, once some live bullets are flying.
My take on the Lawrence Seymour situation is really simple. Texas needs help along the offensive front. And so whether that comes from Lawrence Seymour, Jaden Chapman, Cole Hudson, the news broke over the weekend. I don't know where and how this offensive line is going to come together. And I don't know if Seymour was in shape or out of shape and has already changed his body, like Sark's saying. The reality of it is it's got to be productive. More productive in 2026 than it was early in 2025 in particular, because as you look at the Texas schedule, not only is Ohio State immediately on the schedule, but you go to Tennessee, you play OU game 5, then you have Ole Miss come. I mean, it is a difficult schedule very quickly for Texas. Florida early as well. I'm not so sure that the real issue for me right now as we look at the offensive line at Texas, and whether it's Seymour or whoever, it's them gelling earlier than they did a year ago. Because last year they worked themselves into a situation. This year they got to be strong out of the gate, or else we're going to be circling back and talking about the same issues we talked about last year. They have to be strong out of the gate. If not, this season could go sideways in a month.
And they have to do it with 3 new starters and 1 player that moved position. So essentially 4.
Well, no, not I mean, they have 3 starters returning in Baker, Robertson, and Gooseby. So there's only 2 other spots left.
This is Goosby's. This is Robertson's first year as a full-time starting center. That comes with a different type of
Okay.
expectation and leadership. He's got to take on the leadership and offensive line for the first time as a full-time starting center. So I kind of look at it and say, okay, you got 3 new starters, Siani, if Seymour wins the job, and Robertson. Then you have Baker moving in the guard. So to your point, yeah, it's got to come together quickly. Game 2. At least you got 1 game this year.
Well, hey, do you? I mean, we saw Blake saw G.J. Kinney speak yesterday down in Houston. He's excited about his team, Blake. G.J. Kinney, the head coach at Texas State, talking about Brad Jackson. I read a little bit of his clips. Blake, it said that he was happy that Brad Jackson told him he wasn't going anywhere during the transfer portal, and then lo and behold, 2 wide receivers of his that have 1,000 yards apiece are returning as well.
Yeah, he was very, very excited about his team. He mentioned that multiple times, and he's also very excited about moving conferences. So he brought up all of those points, at the coaches panel at the end, and then multiple times during this press conference. So he's definitely looking forward to it. All right, guys, I want to play y'all one more clip before we let Marcus get out of here. And this one is about 5 for 5. Stark was asked about that. This was a very hot topic at THSCA yesterday. Every single coach was asked about it, and every coach pretty much had the same opinion.
Yeah, I think with the 5 for 5 now, it's interesting. I was just talking to Coach Traylor. He's got the oldest team in the country, UTSA this fall. And I think we are still, and we made a conscious effort this year to try to get older, from where we were a year ago. I still think we're like, I don't know, 4th or 5th youngest team in the country, and Georgia I still think is the youngest team in the country. And I know Kirby was trying to make a conscious effort to try to get a little bit older and seeing the effect that Indiana's, team had a year ago. So I think one way you can try to get a little older is trying to keep and retain your players that have been in your program for that 4th and that 5th year, which is tough to do. We probably this year probably had the most players leave to go into the portal. We tried to replace those players with more veteran type players, and I think we did that. I think we had ended up ultimately signing 22 transfers, and a lot of them with experience, not all of them. But at the end of the day, I think that's where the 5 for 5 can play in. Can you retain? Can you keep? Can you sign players with long-term goals and aspirations of, man, this guy's a developmental player, by year 3 of trying to, foreshadow what this guy could become. And I think so much of recruiting right now is about immediate impact. And I think where we're at as a state of a program is that we're getting varying players, some that may have immediate impact, some that we're trying to project from a developmental standpoint of what they can look like down the road. And I think that's where that 5th year can play an impact.
Marcus?
Yeah, I think the more and more that we talk about 5 for 5, obviously I think there'll be, different impacts across the different sports. But, when you're looking at football and especially having the option to get up to 105, I want to say we're hovering around 94, 95 scholarships, if I'm tracking all of that right, Bobby and Jerry, for the Longhorn football team as of now. So, when you're thinking about trying to raise that floor of age and experience, they did a great job of going out and getting a number of guys that have already had reps. Absolutely you're, going to have some cohesion and things of that nature that builds. But, look at a lot of this is similar across the country. And I always try to kind of stress this. This isn't the sole problem that Texas have. A bunch of schools are going to have this. And some of the teams that we're having to play, even the ones that we're having to go on the road. I mean, look at a school like LSU. Their turnover was even greater than most schools. And a lot of those, that have new coaches coming on are trying to figure out how you battle and measure this. So I think it'll give, some teams opportunities to, take some chances on certain guys, as well as when you dip into the portal, a lot of times we've even seen, Sark going to grab guys that have some experience, but still have, maybe 2, possibly 3 years of experience left on, their ability to play. Even when you think about a guy like Emmett Mosley, who there's been a lot of buzz about, his strong performance this summer. Well, he was a guy that came in from Stanford and still had multiple years to go. So as we move more into this kind of 5 for 5 landscape, it'll certainly shift how they go about approaching it.
I will say this as it relates to 5 for 5 and whether or not Cole Hudson gets a year back. I think that it is kind of these guys that came in the class of 2022. The one before them get 5. The one after them, all of them get 5. I don't know what to say. I mean, it feels like these rules by the NCAA are so hunt and peck, and you never get a legitimate these are the rules and let's play by them. And it almost feels like the NCAA singled out that group for no reason whatsoever.
The timing of it.
Yeah, the timing of it it's bizarre. But I mean, I'm as I think about this 5 for 5 rule, Marcus and Jerry and Blake, the bigger piece for me is what's going on in Congress right now and whether or not the Cruz can't bill protect college sports or save college sports, whatever they're calling it today, as it relates to the rules. What's happening right now is, quote unquote, they're in deal making mode.
Mm-hmm.
And all that means is they're going to try to go and get votes to pass this Save College Sports Act, and it's going to look all janky. I mean, it'll look crazy. And for no reason whatsoever, other than they're not just going to have a simple, clean bill. Instead, they're going to try to have this far-reaching bill that has a lot of stupid nuances to it that are unnecessary so that they can get a vote from Montana or West Virginia or Ohio. I mean, why don't they just do the simple things and then come back and do more simple things as opposed to have all these riders across the board? And I think that what's going on right now, whether it's 5 for 5, that's just an outcropping of the things and the problems that we have in college sports as of today, right now.
Yeah. On the 5 for 5, I like what they're doing. It's needed to be done. The timing of it, and I don't know what would have been the correct timing of it necessarily, because everything's going to be an injunction nowadays, right? So I said last night, I'm just very honest with my opinion. If I'm Kendall Weaver, if I'm Jordan Pope, if I'm Cole Hudson, I don't begrudge those guys and all the guys around the country for trying to get the extra a year because of the timing of this. I don't agree with it. I don't agree that those guys should get the extra year. Just being real, because I do think, but I think the timing of it has allowed this process to now try to get an injunction and be able to play one more season. It's also really bad timing because, okay, so say there's 40 college basketball players that get an extra year. 95% of these teams have spent their NIL allotment and their rosters are at 15 already. So it changes college basketball potentially a lot next year. So from a time, I like where it's going with the 5 for 5. It needed to be done, but the timing of this was really tough for this class of outgoing seniors because everybody else getting an injunction to play. You know they're going to do the same thing, and the agents are going to push for that as well to try to get that extra year of income.
Well, Marcus, thank you so much for joining us as you do each and every Monday. Hope you have a good one, man.
All right, man. I'll catch y'all later. Welcome.
Thanks, Marcus. All right, guys. Well, before we move on, we got a lot more to talk about. Like I said, Gene Chiswick is going to be joining us here in just a little bit as well. But we need to do some ad reads. And Jerry, I need you to tell us about Zen AI, if you can, please, sir.
I've got Zen AI. This summer, don't just watch the game, videcast it. Zen AI is the home of videcasting, a new way to capture and share real sports conversations. No studio, no fancy gear. Your phone is the whole setup, arguing about who should have taken the last shot, breaking down every play. Hit record, talk it out, and Zen AI turns that convo into a sportscast you can share as clips, reels, even TikToks. An AI producer works behind the scenes, cleaning up audio, cutting highlights, and helping you tweak edits just by chatting in plain English. Go live while the game is on, or record your hot takes after. Bring your own co-host or find another fan in Zen AI's network. This summer, Zen AI is paying new videcasters to launch their first sportscast. Humans are the talent, AI is the infrastructure. Zen AI is invite only. Head to zen.ai to join the wait list. That's zen.ai, or you can tap the link in our show notes.
I'm going to take a second to tell everybody about Ridge. You guys know we're big fans of Ridge. They make awesome wallets, power banks, luggage, and premium everyday gear. And we've been using their stuff for a while now. Ridge just launched their annual sweepstakes, and this year's prizes are absolutely wild. From July 24th through September 8th, 2 lucky winners will get to choose between a Lamborghini and a Hennessy Velociraptor, a custom Ford Bronco, or $100,000 in cash. If it were me, I'd probably take going to take the Lamborghini. Let us know what you pick. The best part is you can completely enter at Ridge.com for free. And if you're already planning to grab a new wallet, power bank, luggage, or any other Ridge gear, every dollar you spend earns you additional entries. Ready to upgrade your wallet and maybe your ride? For a limited time only, head to Ridge.com and use code ONTexas, all caps, at checkout for 10% off your order and a chance to win Ridge's biggest sweepstakes ever. A Lamborghini, Hennessy Velociraptor, a Ford Bronco, and or $100,000 in cash. No purchase necessary to enter. Every dollar you spend gets you more entries. That's Ridge.com. Use code ONTexas, all caps. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you to Ridge.com.
All right, guys. We got a super chat here, but no question attached to it. Casey, if you will put that in the chat, then we will make sure to get that for you. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. Casey, do you think 5 for 5 will make things more competitive because second tier Power 4 teams will be playing with Tier 1 schools, older 4th and 5th year players?
Can you hear?
The question for Casey, do you think the 5 for 5 will make things more competitive because of Tier 4 teams playing? Yeah, look, I think it may be more impactful in basketball than football. But if you take guys who have been playing, Kendall Weaver, Jordan Pope, and some of those guys who have been successful at the high major level, and there's a lot of those high major teams don't have slots on their roster, and some of those guys say end up going to play at a Grand Canyon or somewhere like that, and they're paid well to go to a Grand Canyon. Yeah, it's gonna make for much more competitive basketball games. Like right now, teams just have their schedule set, and they don't even know who they're really playing. They don't know the roster they're even playing at this point. You could have a Grand Canyon scheduled if you're a Louisville, and you don't really know who's going to be on that team because of these new injunctions coming down with the 5 for 5. I think it's going to make college basketball much more different than what will happen in football because 2 or 3 guys make such a difference on teams.
And football, I would say this too. A lot of the 5 for 5s coming back in football are guys that didn't get drafted or didn't sign undrafted free agent deals. And so you're not talking about guys that could be as impactful. Whereas a 5th-year basketball player, a Jordan Pope, I mean, what did he score in a game last year for Texas? 17 points a game?
12.
But a guy that was a starter.
Yeah.
Kendall Weaver, same
Good
thing,
player.
starter minutes. Those guys aren't going to be available in football.
No.
Like they are in basketball.
Jordan Pope can go to a Grand Canyon or somewhere and average 19 a game and totally change their team in one season. And that would not have happened without this injunction.
All right. I think this is going to happen. What we're going to try to do here, Jerry, we're going to try to see if we can't let Blake go. But Blake, I don't know what's going on here with my own internet right now. So we're having issues here. I think the internet is overloaded on Digital Row.
Quite possibly.
That's what's happening right now. So we'll see what happens. Jerry, your thoughts on just where we're at right now as it relates to college football and what we're talking about overall in this day and age. I want to get back to that, what's going on in D.C. And the reason I mentioned that, it's kind of broad topic, but I think that if we don't watch out, what's getting ready to happen is we're going to have a Cluj of rules that don't make sense. We're going to have a bunch of different things that we're going to have 5 for 5, but you're going to only get one transfer. And then what happens if you want to be a grad transfer? You still only get one transfer? I think that we're headed down a road of Sacramento State having the same rev share as Texas. It's just, you can't move conferences, or the Big Ten can't, or the SEC can't expand. Why not? I mean, why are we trying to cap what college football could be? And I think there's a reason why all of the professional leagues came out and said, "Oh, we like this rule. Thanks for trying to save college sports," because effectively it neuters the growth of college sports at some level by saying you can't spend as much, you can't do as much. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I get all that, and I'm not saying I disagree at all. I think we're going to get to a better place for college athletics in the next few years. It's this process that we're going through is so chaotic. It's just so chaotic. The one thing I don't like about the Safe College Sports Act is I think it's the reason is kind of BSy. I think I've said before. I think it's the Save Texas Tech Football Act as much as it is anything. Because look, at the reality of this is college. I think college football and college sports is headed to 2 super conferences. I've thought this the whole time. This began, and something's being done to try to slow that down, or keep a couple or a school in position to still be able to compete. And to your point, Bobby, I don't think the rev share should be the same for every team. I just don't think it should be. Like Sacramento State, New Mexico State, wherever you want to go with that, is not the same as Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. You name the schools. It just isn't. I do think this is all going to get to a better place in time. I don't know when that time is, Bobby. I'll be surprised if we still don't end up with 2 super conferences and they kind of play out for the national champion.
Well,
in football.
Yes. Well, look, we're here at SEC Media Days opening day. We got 4 coaches coming up. Eli Drinkwitz, the Missouri coach, Brent Venables, the Oklahoma coach, Will Stein at Kentucky, as well as Josh Heupel at Tennessee. All will be joining the SEC Media Days. Just right behind us, literally, is a large media room where they'll all be speaking behind the Dr. Pepper vending machine, by the way. For the rest of this hour, we're going to have Gene Chizik come on, the former Texas defense coordinator for the 2005 national champions, as well as the national championship head coach at Auburn. He will be joining us for about 10, 15 minutes. But for now, we're going to take some questions and just go out there. We'll start with Nathaniel Loper. Which SEC coach's seat is the hottest heading into this season? Jerry, I've got
Beamer. I think the same guy.
Shane Beamer is absolutely who I would pick.
Yeah, because what happened there is he was 9-3, knocking on the door, making a playoff 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
And you have Lenore Sellers, who's
I was going to say with the same quarterback coming back. And
the question was always going into that the following season. Look, Lenore Sellers is very talented. Okay, are you going to be able to put the right pieces around him, or enough of those pieces around him? And we talked ad nauseum about Texas and their struggles on offense, offensive line, dropping footballs. I mean, whatever it was last year, lack of run game. Now go watch South Carolina last year. I mean, Lenore Sellers was running for his life every game. And they bring in Kendall Briles, who what does that scheme do really well, Bob? It protects offensive line.
Protects the offensive line and focuses on QB quick decisions.
That's exactly right. And a run game. So I think it's Shane Beamer because he's a victim of his own success a little bit because he went 9-3 2 years ago. So people are like, oh, South Carolina may be able to make a playoff, or oh, South Carolina's going to go on a run like Steve Spurrier did. But then you go 4-8 the year after. And now can you bring the pieces in? You brought in Kendall Briles, which I do think was a really good move as OC and scheme-wise. But can you bring in the pieces to help Lenore Sellers have the season he's capable of? If not, then I think he's going to be first in line to have the change made. South Carolina, Shane Beamer.
The other one is that you have to think about is Mississippi State's Jeff Levy. Underwhelming his first couple of years in Starkville. Clearly playing second fiddle right now to Ole Miss.
Yep.
But he has a quarterback that he's pinning a lot of hopes on, Kamario Taylor, that is athletic and has a live arm, and I think fits his offensive style. I don't know that Jeff Levy is going to be a great head coach. I think he's a good coach, but this is do or die for him, I think, as well.
What's so interesting about that scenario for me is I think Kamario Taylor is very impressive at Manning Academy on air, but you could just see how talented he was. There's some plays out there that he made last year that were just elite. The interesting thing with this scenario with Coach Levy is, one, Mississippi State, who are you going to go hire?
Yeah.
Who are you going to hire? That's always the
Dan Mullins out there.
He's out there at UNLV. He's got quarterback challenges this year, but we'll see how he does with that. But you know what happens if Kamario Taylor has a really good year and they win 4 games and fire Levy? He's out the door.
Do you lose your quarterback? You think
you lose everybody in it? You think Miami's not going to want him? Kamario Taylor. I mean, think about the money Mensa got. Think about the money. What if Tennessee's quarterback situation isn't good and he's playing in a similar scheme in Mississippi State? What's that worth to Tennessee? To get Kamario Taylor in, who I think is going to be an elite college player if he has enough players around him. That's the hard thing is if he likes Levy and he's developing under Levy and they go 4-8, 5-7, and they fire Levy, do you lose Kamario Taylor too? Because then you're really starting all over. That's the tough thing with the Mississippi State deal. Again, who are you going to hire?
I agree with all of that. All right, we've got Gene Chizik coming up here in a minute. Before we do that, we need to say thank you to one of our folks. That is Prize Picks. There are a lot of ways to watch sports. You can sit back, check the score, maybe flip between games, or you can have something riding on every swing, every shot, every touch, every possession. That's where Prize Picks comes in. The summer sports calendar is loaded right now. Obviously, the World Cup just wrapped up, but baseball is rolling. The WNBA has been a blast, and Prize Picks gives you a simple way to make all of it more interesting. You're just looking at player projections and deciding one thing, more or less, that's it. Build your lineup, submit your picks, and now you're locked in from the whistle to the final out. Texas, today we got the Rangers pitcher Jacob deGrom with more than 4.5 strikeouts, and Mike Trout with more than half a walk. This is what makes Prize Picks fun. You just trust your read, you make the call, and suddenly every little moment matters. And yes, Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including Texas. Download the app, use code HMA, play $5, and you'll get $50 in free lineups instantly. Code HMA, 5 gets you 50. And as always, play smart and play responsibly. Play Prize Picks. Jerry, as we wait for Coach Chizik here to show up, I think he's coming down the line. We got a couple of more questions. This one from David Keith Williams. I hope Ryan Wingo, Cam Coleman, and Emmett Mosley remain healthy throughout the season and produce at least 50 catches, 800 yards, and 8 TDs. They could all be third-round picks or better in 2027. So I completely agree about the third-round picks or better, actually. Texas could graduate extremely heavily at wide receiver. If Cam Coleman doesn't go in the first round, I'll be surprised. If Ryan Wingo doesn't at least go in the second, I'll be very surprised. Emmett Mosley, though, we've been talking about him for about a week. As I mentioned last week, he was a guy that I was told, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if he leads this team in receptions. That's 3 pretty quality guys. Not since Washington had 3 guys back when they played Texas that all went in the second round or better. Have we seen a group that could be this good at that level all at the same time? Maybe Ohio State, but they were all different years.
Right. I think with Emmett Mosley, he may have the best pure hands of the 3. In fact, I would vote on that. The interesting thing with him, though, he hadn't had a fully healthy season. So going into this year, nobody truly knows what he's capable of. They haven't seen enough of it. You have a feel for it, but over the course of an entire season. And I think it's a lot. I'm a big Emmett Mosley fan because I think he's sure-handed. I think he's tough. I think he's physical. I think he's sneaky fast. I think he's faster than people think. I think he can play through contact. He can play in traffic. I think he can go win 50-50 balls. He makes tough catches on big downs. I love everything about Emmett Mosley. I just want to see one full season of healthy Emmett Mosley. If Texas fans get that, if NFL scouts get that, I have a feeling he is going to shoot up draft boards and could be. I think he's got top 3, second, third round ability because I think his testing numbers are going to be really good once he gets to that point. But the thing I really like about him, why he mixes so well with Wingo and Coleman as this group, this trio, is I think he's a plus blocker in the run game. I think he is a sure-handed guy that will play in traffic and through traffic. And it's almost like, and he's a more talented version, but it's almost like how Jordan Whittington fit when he was at Texas. Okay, he's your best blocker. He's going to make that key block. He's going to make that key play on a third down. He is going to make those tough, just gritty plays. But then you have Emmett Mosley, who's a bigger guy and a more explosive athlete. So that makes Emmett Mosley, it gives him the ability to, I think, be a top 3 round pick. But, like when we put out our top 40-year players, some of us had Bishop ahead of Mosley. Yeah. And I don't think it's because we necessarily thought Bishop would be better on a football field this year. It's just we haven't seen Mosley healthy enough in college football to truly be able to bet on where he can go as a player. But I think we've seen enough to say, okay, if this guy has a healthy season, it wouldn't shock us if he put up 50 and 700.
Despite what Sark said yesterday about Jermaine Bishop, if I had to recast my vote based on what I was told last week, I would put Mosley ahead of Bishop.
Me too.
So I think that's a good question. All right, let's go to a different question here. Let's start with this because I think it's something we addressed slightly, and Sark did address yesterday, Jerry. Can Sark address the Cole Hudson situation? Curious if he was asked about that in Houston or if y'all think he will be in media days. Sark did address that yesterday and was pretty clear. Look, we welcome Cole back. We hope this happens. I want to say one thing that this lawsuit was filed on Friday. I broke the news on Saturday that it actually had occurred. The issue here is that even though he's hoping to get the injunction, he doesn't have the injunction yet.
Right.
And because of that, we just heard Sark say earlier in this podcast, practice starts August 5th. Well, if he's not ready to go and cleared and the injunction's not served by August 5th, that's going to put Cole Hudson further behind. Now, obviously, he started, 23 games as a Longhorn? I think that the focus now is the timeline is tight. He's welcomed back on the team. As soon as he can get ready, they're ready to have him. That's what Sark said. Now it's about all the things going around it and getting the timeline set to where he can join day one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And look, I think that Cole Hudson, if he gets the year, and why would we think he won't at this point with everybody's getting the injunction? So I'm going to fast forward and say he does get the year. Because I think a lot of people have asked, well, what's he going to – is he going to start at Texas? Is he going to have a role at Texas? What does this mean for the team? I just think it means you have a guy who started 23 games and played in over 40 college games. And look, one thing we can't predict is the health of a football team. And can you imagine if in football you have 105 scholarship players now? It's not like basketball; you're limited at 15. Cole Hudson, yes, you would absolutely take him back another year. Because here's the deal. You think Lawrence Seymour is going to be really good, but he went here in the spring, so it's left the question a little bit. And here's another piece of it. Who's your backup center? It's Jackson Christian. Jackson Christian was having a great spring until he had an MCL sprain. He still never played in the college game. So for the people that I think they're asking, well, what does Cole Hudson bring? Do you want him back for another year? I think absolutely you want him back for another year. Now, you want the left guard position to be an open competition, and whoever wins that job wins that job. But I think if you look at some of the backups spots, either at center or left guard, Cole Hudson's played a lot of football games at Texas. And that adds value to a team because you can never predict injuries. You could have Missouri had a run of bad luck at quarterback last year. What happens if you have a bad run of bad luck at center or left guard this year? Bringing Cole Hudson back another year ends up being invaluable for your team.
I'm the same way. I want to say this before we move on to the next topic. We did not talk about this last week or over the weekend. Texas coach Leon Fuller, former Texas coach, has passed away. He is a former defensive coordinator, and I bring this up because we're getting ready, I believe, to talk to another former Texas defensive coordinator. He's coming in.
How are you doing?
Coach Chiswick will be joining us. He's behind us here in the blue shirt. He's going to be joining us momentarily. But Coach Fuller, coached Texas multiple times. First with David McWilliams, under Fred Akers, he's the defensive coordinator, and then became the defensive coordinator a little bit later. Coach Chiswick, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I don't know if you heard this or not, Coach, but Leon Fuller, the former Texas defensive coordinator, passed away over the weekend. No, he did.
Know that.
Yeah, he
I
did.
did not know that.
Yeah, sure did.
I did not.
You don't need him. You don't need him. It's just
that's
you and
good.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. How you doing, Coach?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good, good. Been
Awesome.
looking forward to this. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days, and I'm going to ask you some questions about the Longhorns.
Yes, sir. Loving life, man. Doing a lot of traveling, doing the TV thing.
Yeah.
Just doing a lot of family and a lot of seeing the world. It's been
Where are
amazing.
you living nowadays?
So I split time between Auburn, Alabama,
Yep.
and Destin, Florida.
Oh, well, tough life there,
It's
Destin.
tough life. Yeah, it's tough life, but it's been really good. I retired after the 23 season, and took a whole year off. Didn't do anything. No TV, no radio, none of that. Then last year got back into the TV gig with ESPN and the SEC network, and plan on doing it again this year.
Well, you helped Texas win a national championship as a defensive coordinator. Got to ask you about your thoughts on Sark and what he's doing right now in Austin.
I really like what Sark's doing. A lot of pressure on him there. You know what I mean? That's a big job, as he found out last year. But I really like what Sark's doing. I think he's like, you just take this year, what he's done with, identifying, what rooms in his building need to improve. Look what he did in the wide receiver room by bringing in Cam Coleman. Look what he did in the running back room, right? They couldn't run the ball effectively last year, so he went out and brought in 2 running backs, one from NC State, one from Arizona State, that are going to bolster the run game, right? So that Arch doesn't have to win every game by throwing for 250 or 300 yards. You've got to have a run game with it. And then I like the move that he brought in with Will.
You do. I was going to ask you about that because Pete Kwiatkowski, pretty good defensive coordinator and good results. But Sark said, hey, I want somebody that maybe fits more of my MO, more aggressive, that sort of thing. You like that, huh?
I like the move. Will's obviously, he's a Nick Saban protege in terms of defensive acumen, right? Will brings an energy. He brings a physicality mindset. The last several years he's been with Kirby at Georgia.
Yeah.
So, just kind of, adopting that type of physical, everyday, get after it, fundamentals. He's going to be all about that now. And I think one thing that's going to be interesting for Will is now that he's actually running it and calling it, not doing too much. You know what I mean? He's got some really good players over there. Love the linebacker they brought in from Pitt, the Biles kid. But he's got some really good talent there, letting those guys play. And I think Will's been a head coach. He's been a coordinator. He's seen both sides of that. He understands the value in making everything simple enough to let these guys go get it. So that's what he's going to have to challenge himself a little bit. He's a scheme guy. He's an X's and O guy. He's really, really smart. But just making sure he doesn't do too much of that defense.
A couple of things we've been talking about with him is when you have a pass rusher like Colin Simmons, that allows you to play press a little bit easier, right? That gives you some time. It allows you to play man, I guess. What about him is his weakness, though, as a defensive coordinator? Like PK did a good job of not allowing the big plays. Does Will have a weakness? Is it the quarterback run game? That seems to be something that Saban proteges have had issues with. You took advantage of maybe at Auburn with Cam Newton. What is it that is the kryptonite of a Will Muschamp, Kirby Smart, whoever defense?
Well, I think tempo has been an issue historically.
Okay.
I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying that tempo's been a little bit of an issue.
Okay.
Quarterback run game mixed in there has been a little bit of an issue. If you just huddle up and you come out and play them, you're gonna have a long day as an offense.
Gotcha.
But I don't know what the kryptonite is. It depends on what your players are too. You know what I mean? Like
you got Cam Newton, you're pretty good.
Right. When you got a guy like Colin Simmons out there that can rush a passer, and a guy like Miles that comes in as the leading tackler, at Pitt. You got some guys around you now. You got some cover guys back in the back end. You might not have a lot of deficiencies. You know what I mean? But historically, if you ask that question, tempo and quarterback run play mixed in with that, the RPO game and all that, has probably been something you could point to that they got to make sure that they're buttoned up.
I just got to ask you, you watched firsthand two of the greatest quarterbacks in college football history, in Vince Young and Cam Newton. What did they have? I mean, just beyond the leadership, I mean, it felt like both of them just knew they were going to win every game.
They had the it factor, and I always tell people this. Both of those guys, with the game on the line, everything riding on the season, they want the ball in their hands, and they want to put it on themselves to win it. And I didn't say win it or lose it. I said win it. And that's how Vince was.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Rose Bowl game. And that's how Cam was. Every single game with us. When that game was on the line, he wanted the ball. He wanted the pressure. He wanted the expectation. Vince did too. Those are two. I've had 7 first-round quarterbacks on my teams. Those two are two of the most competitive guys I've ever been around in practice and on game day. They just took it from the practice field to game day. They wanted to compete. They wanted the ball. They wanted the pressure. They loved all of that. But the most important thing is when they had all that on the line, both of them delivered.
Gotcha.
That's the difference.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Coach, you've seen a lot of great teams through the years. What do you make of this new SEC teams? And Jerry and I talk about it all the time. Hard to go through the SEC undefeated. Now you add an extra game. 9-game schedule is going to make it almost more. It obviously makes it more difficult, but is it near impossible now?
It's brutal. I mean, look at Texas' schedule.
Right.
When they start on September 12th against Ohio State, and they go ahead and make the run, it's Ohio State, then all of a sudden now you're at Tennessee, and then you got OU, and then you got, you can go down
Florida,
and then Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even, we ain't got to Texas A&M yet. You know what I mean? And I try to tell people this all the time. All you got to do is look at the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Look at the NFL draft. And you sit there and you say, well, they say the league top to bottom, who's better, the Big Ten. When you're playing against NFL caliber players every single week, no matter what school you're at, just look at the draft.
Oh, it could be Mississippi State.
Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Look at the draft. That tells you the physicality and the amount of skill you're playing against every single week. That's what makes the difference. And there's no reprieve. And now you got 9 of them. So that college football playoff committee better get on their game. Because I'm not sure there's a lot of confidence out there that in a 12-game or a 12-team playoff that they're really going to use the metric they say they are. I'm just being honest.
That was Greg Sankey's words.
As coaches right now, I can tell you, all of them think they look at record.
Yeah.
10 wins. You guys are one of the ones that can make state the greatest case last year.
Yeah.
You stubbed your toe at Florida. But the other one was Ohio State. And you had to be in the conversation for the college football playoff, but it just never seemed like they even were.
No, it didn't. They finished really strong. I got to ask you this before we let you go, because they're asking us to let you go. Who do you got winning the SEC this year?
I think it's going to be interesting, but I'm going with Georgia.
Georgia again?
I'm going with Georgia.
They are the 800-pound gorilla in this league.
Texas, for sure, for Texas, right? But yeah, I'm on the Georgia bandwagon this year.
Coach, thanks for all you do.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, appreciate you.
Thank you.
You have a good one, man.
Got it.
It's Gene Chiswick, ESPN commentator, former Texas Longhorn defense coordinator, national championship head coach as well.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Y'all
you,
have a
guys.
good one. Thanks. Good stuff. Jerry will join me here back momentarily, but before we do that, I need to say thank you to our sponsor
You are so
over at Longhorn Wealth Management Group. That is John Donovan and his group. John and the guys John's a proud Texas Life member who served on the Dallas Texas Exes board for 15 years and has now spent the last 4 years helping lead and support the growth of the new Collin County Exes chapter. John also consistently serves his fellow Longhorns as a certified financial planner and the founder of Longhorn Wealth Management Group, the firm he created and dedicated to serving UT alums, employees, and fans across the nation. John's proud that Longhorn Wealth Management has been honored by the Texas Exes as a 2026 Longhorn 100, the exclusive award presented to the 100 fastest growing companies in America from 23 to 25 that were founded by, owned, or led by UT alums. This was John's first year to apply for the award, and he was excited that Longhorn Wealth came in at number 32 on the list. To celebrate this accomplishment, John wants to offer all the OTF family a free private consultation via Zoom, phone, or in person to allow John to show you how working with a certified financial planner can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy, and to reduce or eliminate the risks to your current and future financial success. Please take the time now to schedule your own free private consultation. Call the Longhorn Wealth team at 972-707-4900 or schedule online at www.longhornwealth.net. All right, Jerry Hamilton, we're back here. We got a couple more minutes. We're going to close out this segment. The opener at the SEC Media Day has been fun doing this with you as well.
I got to say, if it's a degree over 59 in here, I'd be shocked. After the show, I'm headed to urgent care to get ahead of this, whatever's coming my way at Thursday afternoon.
It is cold. It is a little cold in here.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm gonna wear my ascot tomorrow.
I missed this. We were talking earlier, Jerry, about coaches on the hot seat. Kalen DeBoer. He's starting a new quarterback this year.
Right.
If Bama goes one and done in the playoff game again, is DeBoer's seat getting warm? Let's say this. What if he goes out like he did last year in the playoffs where Indiana absolutely pantsed him?
Well, my issue with that is, and this was a discussion on a different show, is one, they just gave him a big contract. So the answer is obviously no. But two, with that is, look, this isn't the same Alabama as pre-NIL.
The depth isn't there.
Yeah, and I just think NIL changed the game. Alabama's not a top 5, 6, 7 NIL tier or level team. I think, and again, it goes back to who you're going to hire. Okay, so if we talk about Alabama is not what they were, and from an NIL standpoint, they're not going in the position to compete on the same level as a Texas or Texas A&M or Ohio State. Well, if we're saying that, what's Dan Lanning saying about the job? So it comes down to, again, who are you going to go hire? Are you really going to hire a better coach than Kalen DeBoer? Kalen DeBoer's taken 2 teams to college football playoffs. He won multiple D2 national championships. He's one of the better coaches in college football. Now, does that mean he's perfect? None of these guys are perfect. I'm not saying that, but it gets back to who you're going to hire at Alabama. Does anybody think raise your hand if you think Marcus Freeman's going to leave Notre Dame for Alabama? My hand's not raised. Is your hand raised? Is Dan Lanning? No.
He groomed Ty Simpson into a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. He's had Jalen Milroe, and he's good with coaches, with quarterbacks, Michael Penix.
Yeah.
I think that, and I do think that's the most important position on the football field.
Yep.
And so I agree with you. I would not let him go, but I think there will be some feelings
for Alabama fans will want him gone.
If they lose by 30 in a playoff game, you're right. It's going to be really, really
It'll be the fan base more than probably the people who run the university.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the reality of it. And look, because the people that run the university know where Alabama is situated in the new NIL era.
They do. They absolutely do. And look, they lost 2 defensive starters to Ohio State via the portal. They couldn't retain them.
Yes.
Didn't have the funds to retain them. All right, this one from Yes OU Sucks. Bobby and Jerry, how many of our SEC opponents are just one key injury away from falling out of college football playoff contention? is OU with a John Mateer injury. I think that.
100%.
I think so, right?
Mhm.
Who else on the Texas schedule? LSU with, I think Levitt might be a guy, but Longstreet's
really
good player.
Really talented.
Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss.
100%, yeah. Because Austin Simmons left to go to Missouri.
Yep.
Those are probably the ones that come to mind. That's on Texas SEC opponents was the question. Obviously, Lenore Sellers at South Carolina. If anything happens,
what about Marcel Reed at A&M?
Because of the lack of experience behind them.
Yeah,
I would say so. I want to leave that up because I want to say something else too for the chat. I think one of the big things is, and I mentioned it before, the injuries is the first game for an Ole Miss against Louisville, Texas versus Ohio State, Oklahoma at Michigan, and there's one more I'm forgetting that I mentioned earlier. But if any SEC team loses that Power 4 game against a really good opponent, do they make the playoff? See, here's where it gets interesting because LSU against Clemson, but that's at home and LSU. But still, it's Lane Kiffin's first game. Levitt's coming off an injury. It's a lot. They have 75 new players, and I know we've all buried Dabo, but that's a great opportunity for him with a little more continuity in his program. But if Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, or Oklahoma, if they were to lose that opening or second weekend game, do they still make a playoff? When the 9-game SEC schedule, I think the loser, if an SEC team loses that game, I think their odds to make a playoff are way lower. I'm talking like 20%.
At most.
I think those are all must-win games for the SEC teams.
At most. OU Michigan game, I know people are all excited about Michigan and Bryce Underwood and Kyle Whittingham. I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think what'll be interesting about that game, and Oklahoma's going to be slight favorite in that game, is Michigan was a dumpster fire, right? That was bad. If it was bad,
it ended as a dumpster fire for
but
sure.
Think about how it was internally in that program and around there with everything that had gone on. So what Kyle Whittingham is going to bring stability immediately. And they're going to be very physical. Oklahoma's going to have to go to Ann Arbor and win a game physically. Now, backfoot Bryce has to prove he's actually going to step into throws. Until then, he's backfoot Bryce to me. But Oklahoma has to go win that game physically. Can they run the football? That's kind of why I've said, are they going to be able to help Mateer out running the football this year? Because they play at Michigan and they play at Georgia. And if they can't run the football, they're not winning both of those games. And winning at Georgia is going to be tough anyways. But they're going to have to win the game physically in Ann Arbor because one thing that Michigan will have, they still have really good offensive linemen. They have big physical football players on both lines of scrimmage. So I'm very interested to see if Whittingham can slow that game down and win it physically and run the football. They got a good back who missed the Texas-Michigan Citrus Bowl last year as well.
Yeah. All right. We got one more question, then we're going to call it. We're going to go in and listen to a couple of the coaches here.
Yeah.
Brent Venables will be here. Josh Heupel, Eli Drinkwitz, as well as Will Stein, the new head coach at Kentucky. They're joining us. Then we'll be back again tomorrow. Well, we are going to carry a few of these press conferences for you guys raw. And what I mean by that is we will just basically cover that for you and allow you to sit there and listen to what they have to say unadulterated. We're not going to try to type in and just say our piece on it, that sort of thing, Jerry. All right, before we get going, last question here from David Keith. I asked this before, but do you think the 2027 trio of John Meredith, Ishmael Kamara, and Easton Royal are the most important recruits for Texas to sign since Colin Simmons in 2024? Boy, I don't know about that now. The most important?
Look, I'm gonna say of those three guys that you asked about, I think John Meredith is actually number one on that list. Because look, and I'm not saying, and that's not a guarantee he's going to go be a first-round pick or top 10 pick or All-American like Colin Simmons, but with what Will Muschamp's going to do defense schematically at Texas, John Meredith is almost the perfect version of that. 6'2" and change, can really run, is aggressive. He's very competitive. Everybody's going to get beat at the opening. There's always going to be clips of you getting beat, but he's very competitive. That guy didn't dodge a rep at the opening. He wanted to go against everybody. So he's got the competitiveness, but that corner spot, that 6'2" plus long arm guy that can run, that can play press. He's very important for Texas, I think, because there just aren't many of those guys out there that are in your state, in DFW, in your recruiting territories. But I don't think any of those guys are on Colin Simmons' level in terms of importance for Texas.
All right. I don't either. All right. That's going to do it for today's Coffee and Football. Thanks for joining us. Special thanks to Blake. He had to check out early because we're having some technical difficulties as the Wi-Fi, we think, here at the SEC Media Days gets overloaded. Thanks also to our sponsor, Longhorn Wealth Management Group, Prize Picks, Ridge, as well as Zen AI. Thank you to Matthew, our producer behind the scenes, as well as to Jerry Hamilton and all of you for joining us. We'll be back with more today from the SEC Media Days. Also, over at ontexasfootball.com, we have an ongoing thread right now. If you want to make sure you don't miss a beat on the SEC Media Days, make sure you watch the ontexasfootball.com thread. For Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good week ahead of the Horns.